Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz is putting the brakes on confirming President Biden's State Department nominees. The Senate typically confirms nominees through a speedy, unanimous consent process. But every nominee Cruz objects to must go through a longer vote, taking up hours of precious time on the Senate floor. Republican Senator Josh Hawley is joining Ted Cruz in blocking nominees. Both senators have their eyes on a potential 2024 presidential run. For more on this, I'm joined by CBS News correspondent Christina Ruffini. Hi, Christina. So why is Senator Cruz holding up these nominations? What does he say he wants?
Well, it depends on whether you ask Senator Cruz or whether you ask the Democrats who say he's being obstructionist because he's running for president, possibly in the next election. Senator Cruz says he's holding up these nominations because he wants the Biden administration to be tougher on Russia. There's this pipeline called Nord Stream 2 that both the Trump administration and the Biden administration have said benefits Russia and possibly makes Europe more dependent on Russian gas, right? It's a security issue. It's an energy issue. The problem is the pipeline goes through Germany, and Germany loves this project, but they're kind of the only European ally that does. So there was this CATSA sanction that they were supposed to put on any of these German companies or entities involved in this pipeline. And they did this really strange thing where they implemented the sanctions, and then Secretary Blinken, when he came into the State Department, waived the sanctions. So they're there, but then he waived them and said, look, this pipeline is already 90% complete. We don't think we can stop it. We're still against it, but we're prioritizing relations with our ally, Germany. Now, that was a strategic move that we can debate or not debate. The issue is Senator Ted Cruz somehow thinks he's going to get the Biden administration to reverse course on this policy by holding up its nominees to not only ambassadorships around the world, but senior official positions at the State Department. There's more than 50 of these positions that are open. There's a website that tracks them. If you scroll through, it says vacant, 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 vacant. Now, part of this is on the Biden administration, who was really slow in putting these names forward. But at the moment, they're pointing the finger at Senator Cruz and now Senator Hawley, who has his own reasons for trying to tie this up. But also it puts them in a very prime position, a very public fight with the Biden administration, were either of them to try to make a run for the White House in the next term.
Right, raises their profile. So are Cruz and Hawley, though, entirely to blame for the slow progress of getting ambassadors and other senior officials confirmed? I mean, you did say that it took some time for some of these names to get, launched. So is there more at play here?
They really were slow in getting these names forward. I remember the first maybe dozen or so briefings when we had in the briefing room, all the State Department reporters were asking, like, guys, where are your nominations? And they kept saying, oh, it's a White House problem. And the White House would say, oh, we're working with the State Department. Ambassadorships are always controversial, partly because, the U.S. has this very strange system that a lot of other countries don't do, where the ambassadors rotate out with the presidential administration. A lot of countries, the ambassador is kind of separate from the political administration, and they overlap. That way there's some sort of consistency. But as you know, that's not the case, and a lot of these are political appointees. They're heavy donors of the president. President Trump had a large number of donors as ambassadors. A couple of them were rather controversial. And President Biden has had a lot more political appointees and donors than his critics have said he promised. And some of those critics are Democrats, and some of those critics are in the State Department. So they were slow getting these names forward, and they're slowly getting them out there. But now that they're getting out there, it's given these senators time to come up with this plan to kind of stall them in place. And it's hindering policy and progress for the Biden administration at the State Department.
Right, and it is certainly angering Democrats. We've heard them multiple times say how upset they are about Senator Cruz defying what they say are political norms, and now other senators following suit. Does this have the potential of snowballing?
It could. We've seen this with any time one party breaks the political norms. You want to keep that norm in place so that when you're out of power, you have it to fall back on and the other party will respect it. The problem here is that, normally they do these kind of by unanimous voice vote for the non-controversial, not really key posts. So they could say, Lithuania, Liechtenstein, and Lesotho, here are your ambassadors, yay or nay, and everybody can say, okay, and move on. The problem is by making them litigate every single one of these ambassadorships, it's not against the rules, it's just really, really burdensome, and it's slowing down, which is exactly what Senator Cruz says he wants, is he wants the Biden administration to engage him in this negotiation. They're probably not going to do that, and what's going to happen is we're just going to have a bunch of empty posts around the world at a time when there are several large international issues popping up that would be good to have a solid, stable American face be the front of in any given country.
Also today, Christina, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is at a meeting of NATO where there's a lot of talk about Russia. What did the secretary say about Russian aggression in Europe? There is this announcement out of Moscow that they're expelling U.S. diplomats that have been in the country for longer than 3 years. Can you explain what's going on?
Yeah, let's start with Secretary Blinken in this NATO meeting. He's in a place. He's in Riga, where it used to be a Soviet state, right? So he's on the Soviet home front, and he's saying the U.S. and NATO are concerned about Russian aggression in Ukraine. He's been asked if he thinks if the U.S. has actionable intelligence that Russia is planning to invade further into Ukraine, further into Crimea. He said, basically, I don't know what's in Vladimir Putin's heart, but I know the playbook, and the playbook is to come up with a reason they think they've been provoked and then march their troops into new territory. So they're very concerned. They're also very concerned about Russian cyber actions, which we've seen over and over again. And this thing with the diplomats is a tit-for-tat spat, because as part of U.S. measures to take action against Russia for cyber crimes and other aggressive action, it said that, okay, Russian diplomats that are in the U.S. can only stay for 3 years. After their 3-year tour is over, they have to rotate out. So this is a reciprocal move by Moscow to say, okay, fine, if any of your diplomats have been here for longer than 3 years, they also have to rotate out. Moscow has also said that locally employed Russians can no longer work at the U.S. Embassy, which is a huge burden because U.S. embassies all around the world rely on local staff to run their operations. Some of those people have been at that embassy for years and years and years working for the U.S. It's going to make it really hard to keep up that level of productivity, that level of, consular support, visas, interacting with the local community. So the U.S. has said it's trying to resolve these issues with Moscow. It's trying to engage. They do have an ambassador there. He's actually a holdover from the Trump administration, so that's been helpful in the engagement. But so far, there seems to be no resolution, and I would look for more of these little tit-for-tat measures to come with diplomats or properties owned by the governments or anything else as we move forward.
Absolutely. Well, Christina Ruffini, thank you so much. And your Christmas tree is lovely, by the way.
Thank you. Trying to close out the year on a high note. It's been a rough year for all of us.